Never eat beef again or never eat chicken again.
It always comes back to food, doesn't it?
every time.
That's the best.
Chicken is just so versatile. Like, if you can't eat chicken again, then you're eating a lot of mince and a lot of lasagna. I guess there's other food outside of beef and chicken, but I would miss chicken a lot. Whereas beef, like I like a good burger now and then. I like a lasagna, but I wouldn't be sad to miss them. Like I've had pretty good chicken lasagnas, so there's always that.
I feel like my heart says chicken. Like chicken is the go-to. It is beautiful. Like think of two things. One, think of tandoori chicken that is put in a lovely curry. That is succulent, delicious, and beautiful. But then also think of deep fried chicken covered in crispy, spicy batter, lovely. However, I feel like beef is a more practical answer. I think in terms of cooking, I much prefer cooking beef. It's kind of easier to do well. Like chicken can go wrong, it can be overcooked, it can go dry. You're scared of salmonella sometimes. And also the fact that my wife pretty much only cooks spaghetti bolognese. So it would be a little bit of a tough call just to say chicken, no longer allowed to cook spaghetti bolognese, honey. Like, I don't know. I'm really, really sad about missing out on chicken, but maybe I have to go beef just for the practicalities of it.
But there's chicken mince. Like you can just get chicken mince.
Ah, this is a good point.
Spaghetti chicken.
Actually, the one of the worst things about like cooking beef is the cleanup. Like how the pan gets really like red and orange and then like scrub it all down. I know you can get like nice lean beef at a higher price. It doesn't look so gross, but usually after you've cooked any kind of beef,
Full of fat.
yeah, it's just like this pool of fat and it's gross. And then your basin looks all gross. Chicken, no problems. It's easy. No mess.
All right, so it's a tricky one for me because like chicken is pretty far down my ranking of favorite meats.
Is it like below goat? Is it like below praying mantis? Like how far down are we talking?
It's at least
Under dog?
fourth.
Oh, okay.
I haven't had dog. I've had horse. Horse isn't that good though. It's kind of a bit too irony. It's like really dark red because it's just full of iron and
You taste the personality.
actually donkey was pretty good though. So
It tastes like
Okay.
us.
Okay. So donkey above
Maybe-
chicken then?
maybe, yeah. But in the saying that, the whole versatility of chicken is a thing. Like anytime I go to either an Indian restaurant or like a Thai restaurant, like sort of spicy cooking, I like chicken because chicken just like absorbs spices in a way that I don't like other meats don't. Or like chicken is so bland. I'm gonna put it that way. Chicken is so bland that it goes well with like whatever sort of spices you put in it, and then it ends up being really nice. And yeah, fried chicken is great as well. So I would probably have to say I would never eat beef again, even though I prefer beef as a meat. Like if you cook me a roast chicken or roast beef, I way prefer the beef. You know, I prefer a steak to like chicken on a chicken kebab on the barbecue as well. But I'll tell you one thing that where I think chicken is like better than I think in my head. Because when I go to a burger place, I'm always like, oh yeah, I want a beef burger. And I never really think to get the chicken burger. But the times that I've got the chicken burger, I'm like, oh my goodness, chicken burgers are amazing. Like they're actually so good. And maybe I should be getting chicken burgers as the default instead of beef burgers.
Except about one in three times they sneak some blue cheese sauce in there under a different name, and you're like, what the heck is this feet tasting thing amongst my chicken?
You brought up roasts, and like I gotta say that beef is probably my lowest of the roasts.
Yeah.
Like, if there's a choice of roast, it's gotta be maybe lamb or pork at the very top, then the other one, then chicken, then beef. Like I don't mind like a silver side of it, it's called the corned beef type thing. Like it's good now and then, but I would never choose if I went to a place that cooked roasts, I would never choose beef, like ever. It'd usually be lamb, I think, first. Chicken or pork, that kind of thing, but nah. Doesn't give me the same feel, you know?
I agree, lamb first, but for me, chicken roast is like pretty like is average. Like chicken meat by itself when it doesn't have like spices or like fried oil around it is like for me it's the most average.
Oh, these are some hot takes, dude.
Ah.
Oh man, the meat by the skin is delicious. Put a bit of lemon, sage, onion, bacon around there. Oh, so good. In the spirit of just doing what I normally do, making things more complicated, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, if we change the question to be a chicken is involved in all your food, or not all your food, or a cow. So basically what I'm doing is chicken plus eggs versus beef plus milk products. Now where do you go?
Beef.
Still the chicken.
Still chicken and eggs?
Oh, yeah.
So you lose your cheese, you lose all of that sort of stuff?
I'm not even that into cheese. Like I do like, I like my chocolate milk, but I could learn to live without it. I do try to.
You have non-dairy chocolate, right? There'd be alternatives.
That's true.
But yeah, for me, cheese is way better than eggs. I'd pick cheese over eggs any day of the week. So, and cheese is so much better than eggs that I would pick beef over chicken. I would change my answer.
There you go. Nice.
What about you, Sam?
It's got to be beef. It's funny, Zach, you're saying that kind of like your heart was saying beef, but you'll go with chicken. And I was saying that my heart was saying chicken, but I'll go with beef. Like, we've just picked the wrong answers, man. Like, what's going on?
And the correct answer is chicken.
Welcome to the Lens and Veil podcast. Join Shem, Sam, and Zach as they dive into a designer-focused analysis of underwater cities by Vladimír Suchý.
Underwater Cities is a game set in the very near future where Earth is overpopulated, but it's going to be decades before any kind of attempts to colonize Mars are even possible. So the government or the people in control, whatever, have decided that they're going to build underwater cities, hence the name of the game. So we are taking on the role of these people going underwater to build cities and tunnels and buildings and try and get a thriving population, a city down underwater. In the game, you start with just a board in front of you with your starting city, and you're going to be branching out from there with tunnels to build more cities, to build various buildings, to make these metropolises, which are worth points and other things in the game. So it has this kind of spatial element to your board, where you're building out your cities. And then the main board is an area where you're going to be playing down your action markers to take actions and use cards to try and build out a bit of an engine, a tableau builder style of game. The main kind of crux of the game, I suppose, and what you're doing in the game is that you have these 3 action markers each round. The game takes over, I think it's about 10 rounds usually, depending on what version you're playing. And there are 3 income steps breaking up those rounds. But on each of the rounds, you'll be placing out your 3 action markers onto these essentially worker placement spots, but they are colored. And the trick of the game is that you're going to play down your action marker into one of the 3 colors. And if you can, play a card of the matching color from your hand, activate both the slot and the card that you played. You can still play an action card that's of the wrong color, but it will do nothing. You'll just discard it. So it's not beneficial. The game is telling you try and go to the right spot and play the right colored card. There are a variety of cards. Some just have immediate effects that when you play them, they give you a thing and you discard it. Some will give you this ongoing power that whenever you do X, then you get Y. Others will be effects that trigger during each of the 3 income steps, giving you more resources for the next few rounds. And then even more, there'll be ones that give you in-game scoring or other things going on. Lots of stuff, lots of variety. There's also 3 ages to the game, which are broken up by those 3 income steps I mentioned. And each age, we're playing from a different deck of cards. So you start in age 1 with very kind of basic cards, and eventually age 3, you start seeing some of these point scoring cards and so on. There's also these special cards that are kind of, there's a deck of them, of simple ones, cheaper ones. There's also 6 laid out, which are more expensive. Everyone can see them, and it's kind of your decision when you might want to grab those into your hand. And they're going to cost you credits to play down, but they're going to be big point scoring cards. The downside is that they're going to clog up your hand, because in this game, you start with 3 cards in hand, and at the end of every turn, regardless of how many cards you use, I believe, you're going to be drawing up 1 card at the end of your turn. So there's this big pool of cards. You're always using cards and drawing cards. You're not deck building or anything like that. You're just going through the motions of trying to find the best cards. There are various effects in the game that will let you draw more cards and then discard down. So there is this kind of element of searching for the cards you want for your engine and for your combos that you're looking for, even just the color matching that you're looking for. So many of the actions are going to be gathering resources, or building tunnels, building buildings, or building these domes, these cities onto your board. There's going to be actions that let you upgrade certain buildings, tunnels, and all that kind of fun stuff. There's also action cards in the game. You start with one of them, and there's 3 spots to let you use these actions, kind of like tapping them, and they'll refresh during each income phase. That's really the broad strokes of the game. But really, it's more about the card building, the engine building. Games like Terraforming Mars, games like Ark Nova, those kind of games where they have these big card kind of pools where every card is unique. This is one of those kind of games. So I did sort of mention the main thing of the game is this color matching and how the cards work, how you're drawing cards, playing cards, all that kind of stuff really is the main heart of the game. This is, I think, the fun part for us also is really like this puzzle of I've got 2 red cards and a yellow card, but I really want to go to green. Maybe I'll just wait. Maybe I'll try to do something different and sidestep and then wait for a green card to come up. Should we dive into that? How do you guys feel about the cards in this game?
It's such an intense puzzle because you don't only have the worker placement puzzle of like people could block the action that I desperately need to do this round, but you get into that situation and you're like, I desperately need to do that action, but I don't have a card of that color. And so you're suddenly second guessing yourself and going, I do need to desperately do that action, but if I go there, like it's inefficient because I'm not going to get to play a card. I'm not going to get an extra bonus. So it adds the second layer of like the obvious move no longer is the obvious move. And I think that's really powerful because in lots of games, there is kind of the obvious move and it's just like, okay, I'll do that because that's the best thing for me. Whereas this one has me constantly going, is this the best thing for me? Or should I do something else? And that's not to say like it creates heaps of AP because I don't find like it's a super AP game. But I just end up doing things that I'm like, I think this was a good decision, but I'm not 100% sure, and I'll see how it plays out. Or you discard a card because you're like, oh, I'm never getting a chance to play this card. And then your next turn, you're like, oh my goodness, why did I discard that card? I should have kept it because that spot's open and I could have gone there and done that. And it just creates like all these really good moments over the course of the game.
I like the tension and the opportunities for planning that the card system allows you to do. Now, at the end of every turn, as Shem said, you're picking up a card, but they're kind of mean in the fact that you have to discard down to 3 if you've got more than 3. So you can only hold 3. If you're a really tactical player, generally what you want to do is hold on to 1 card of each color, right? So that if something gets blocked in a particular area, you know that you've got options in every color to be able to take an action there. That's kind of like the tactical thing to do. But sometimes you will pick up 2 cards of the same color that have a beautiful amount of synergy. So you're thinking, right, actually I want to hang on to both of these cards. And that means I'm going to have no card of another color, right? I'm going to have to discard a card of a different color, and I'm not going to be able to take those actions. Now, I say I'm not going to be able to take those actions because that's how I play. I very, very rarely, maybe 1 in every 3 games, will ever take an action and discard a card. That's just something I will not allow myself to do because it's an inefficiency. And every time Zach did it, I cringed on the inside. I felt, oh, that's yuck. How dare you go and take an action and not use a card? Just trying to get every little bit of efficiency out of it, which is really cool. So I like this idea that you can plan ahead. Okay, I've got these 2 orange cards that I want to play down. Therefore, I want to try and figure out 2 orange actions that I need to do. Which of these actions are more contested? I'm going to go for that one first. And there's kind of like this, there's this excitement for the strategic player as well as the tactical player.
It's interesting that you're actually quite at mercy of the card draw as well, right? Like you say you got tactical plays or strategic plays, but really like the card draw can be quite widely good or bad in whatever you draw, but it doesn't feel so random when you're playing. You think it should be quite frustrating in a way, like, oh, I just can't get that card, but maybe it's the fact that you get 2 actions essentially if you're playing well. The action of the slot and the action of the card. And sometimes it's like 90% about the card and 10% about the slot, or it's the other way around. Often it's the other way around, to be honest. It's more about what is on the board that I want to do. I want to build a city. I want to upgrade some buildings or whatever it might be. And the card's more like, oh, and also I can play this down. Because a lot of those cards, like I was saying, they're not immediate effects. They're not things that give you stuff straight away. They're like, oh, this is part of an engine building system, or this is a point scoring system. So going to red, you really want the action, and it's allowing you to play down a card. And most cards are always good. There are some that are very conditional, like if you have this, then get this thing. So there are some cards where you just think, this is not useful to me. It never will be useful to me. But usually, if you've got a hand of 3 cards, usually there's 1 or 2 cards in there that you think this is beneficial. Like maybe it's not what I really want, but it's beneficial. So it kind of takes away that weird luck factor, right? Like in any other game like this, you'd think that those cards would be really frustrating. Like I can't get the cool cards, but I think the balance of the card versus the action is kind of what, I don't know, allows for that kind of space.
Yeah, and I think you might have mentioned it in the intro, but there's these assistants. So there's also this type of card that you can tap once per age, and you can play them down as a colored card. And then there's certain action spots that let you activate them. But once you have 4 of them, when you play down another one, you can instantly activate one of the ones that isn't activated and get rid of it. So discard it. So it's like a one-off action, and you can't use it again for the rest of the game. And that starts to become something really powerful towards the end of the game, because you can do these mega powerful actions that usually you can only do once per round. But if you've got 4 assistants and you keep on playing down assistants, you can keep on like firing these guys off. So there's some like really interesting ramp up, I think, of power, both through the ongoing effects cards that you might have played down over the course of the game, but also these assistants who then become these really powerful turns that you can take.
Sort of at risk of repeating myself, there are times when you want to take certain actions. So I want to take 2 orange actions in a row, and the actions that I want to take is going to dictate which cards I hang on to. So then I'm going to have 2 oranges and a green. But there are other times when you really want to play cards. You want to play these 2 green cards, and they are going to determine the actions that you're going to plan to take. So I really like this push and pull, and there's 2 ways you can get direction. You can get directions from actions you want to take from looking at your little player board and things you really need to get done, or the resources that you already have on hand. And that's going to say, right, I really want to find a way to spend these credits. I'm going to take a green action. And then you're like, okay, I need to find green cards to play to make sure that's efficient. Or sometimes you're like, man, these cards are amazing. I just need to find any old orange action to play this card down and benefit from that. And just the planning going both ways is really, really delightful. It makes you feel really smart if you manage to pull it off.
Yeah, and those action cards that Zach was talking about do help cover over that a bit, because there's 1 action card activation spot on all 3 colors. So like if you don't have a good card to play down, you just got something that's kind of okay, but you do have a prepped assistant, the action card ready to go, you could go to any one of the 3 colors and still pop that off. So I like how there's this little flexibility in there as well. I don't so love the whole you play your 5th one, discard one of your early ones for an immediate effect. It can become a bit toxic towards the end of the game, but I don't know, maybe not every game. I haven't noticed that in the past, but when we played it more recently, it felt a bit kind of, I don't know, felt like I was doing things I shouldn't be able to do in a way.
We abused it a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so that I didn't quite like that, but I do like them how they function as a kind of a banked action, I guess you could say, that you can take any one of the 3 colors. The other interesting part about the whole color thing is how the actions aren't equal, right? Like,
yes,
the green actions are much weaker than the yellow, orange actions, and the red are in the middle. And then the cards kind of are the opposite effect, right? Like the green cards are the best, generally speaking. So you've got this thing of like, well, I've got this awesome card, but I have to take it over at green, which I don't really want to do because there's nothing good for me there. So that's an interesting sort of dynamic between the cards and the actions as well.
I love that. It's something that they didn't have to do. They could have just made red, orange, green, all the same strength types of actions, all the same strength types of cards, and we would have loved the puzzle. It would have been great. But the fact that there is that little wrinkle about, oh, these green cards are actually better. But I have to do a really dumb action. Like, I think that's super, super cool. And the asymmetry amongst them is nice. And there'll be some games using the worker placement system where particular colors become really, really contested. And I like that too. And you've got a handful of orange cards and all the orange spots are blocked. Then you feel a little bit anxious about what you're going to do.
Yeah, and that definitely happened in our 3-player games. Like, especially I remember red being like completely blocked one time, and I had this great red card that I just wanted to play out, and I'm like, oh man, I can't do it. And then I think another tension is like you're holding on to like cards that you want to play at some point, but maybe you haven't had the chance yet. And then you finish the age, and you get given 3 new cards, and you have to choose between those 3 cards and the 3 cards that you've already got. And you're like, crap, I was holding on to these cards because they were good and I wanted them. But now I've got all these new cards, and then you have to make this like decision, like, what am I getting rid of? I can only have 3 cards. I don't know, it's such a tense moment for me of like, oh man, I really wanted to keep these, but there's some new good ones. So I just found myself throwing out cards that I really wanted like all the time.
We were going through the discard pile after our second game and seen that someone had thrown out a special card. I was like, who did that? Like, who picked up a special card and then threw it out? Like,
I shudder.
Yeah. Because those cards are like, they're right there. They're face up. They're so tempting to grab, and you can just grab them from the start of the game. But it's clogging up your hand, and they cost 3 credits to play down. So, and even the conditions on them, you don't know this other game if you're going to score that well in it. And there's even more chaos in the expansion where the cards become quite like more drastic and like winning or losing on the points of them. So they're quite high risk when you take them early, but they pay off, right? So when do you take those cards? Like, is it in the first age, second age? Do you wait to the end? Because often they really are a big swing of points between the players. If there's only 6 of these high scoring cards out there in a 4-player game, for example, not everyone's getting the same number. So when do you grab them? Can you focus on them? Do you try and push for those scoring conditions before you pick up the card, or do you pick up the card and then push for it? Like, it's good sort of decision around timing in those cards.
So in my defense, that was actually a bit of a mean play. In my defense, I don't know if it's really defending myself. But that card was a card I was not going to score, but that both of you guys could have scored. And I think there were no kind of like good orange actions available, and I wanted to play an orange card. So I went to the one that lets you pick up a special card so I could play my orange card. I picked up that one and discarded it just to deny the points from you guys. So I talked to Sam as well about the game. I was like, you could just go there and deny people like the possibility to score those cards. Like, might not be the most efficient thing, but it could sometimes be really efficient. And I found that kind of interesting as well.
I like your thinking, but I do have a question. How did that work out for you?
Well, I didn't win, but I think there's other reasons. I think there's other reasons for that.
So one of the key things about the game, which is quite interesting, it is a round-based game. So typically play 10 rounds. If you've got the expansion, you'll only play 9 rounds. But it sort of subverts the expectation of a round-based game where you kind of do the same steps every round. Because only 3 times throughout the game, we have an income step. And this is shown on the game tracker. So at the end of round 4, round 7, and round 10, we have an income step. And so you're not getting income every round. And I feel like this is a really nice kind of masterstroke of design where there are these really key moments where you are building up, and hoping you get the most profit at those particular points rather than just getting income every round. What do you guys think about the income system?
I think it's really clever because what he managed to do, the designer, is create rising tension where worker placement spots are being blocked, and then it frees up again, and then you can go again. So you are going to have 3 chances to get to do that action that you absolutely need to do in the round before you get to income. But as a round passes by and you weren't able to do that action, you go, okay, next time I'll do it. But then maybe you're not the first player because there's also a variable first player mechanism. And so I think it's really interesting that he manages to build up this tension and then release it and then build it up again. And then there's another tension that starts growing over those rounds is that you start to run out of resources because the resources that you had from your income or your last income are starting to run out. And so you're starting to have to take resource gathering actions to then be able to do actions. So it creates like a really interesting dynamic, whereas the usual dynamic in a round-based game is that like you gain all your income and then you'll just start spending your stuff. And as the worker placement spots clog up, you're spending more of your stuff. And then it's the end and you reset, right? Whereas this one, like there's that worker placement tension happens 3 times with the same amount of resources, if you get what I'm saying, which I think creates quite a different feeling to lots of other games.
This is actually quite a common thing to see in older games. I'm trying to think of examples, but I actually can't think of any. But this whole idea of like, at end of round 3, end of round 6, end of round 9, there's this additional phase where we score. I mean, we did it. It's in Assyria. We redid Assyria recently. It's coming out in a few months. They used to have 3 ages, and you kind of had 2 or 3 turns, and then there was a sort of resolution, and things happen. So this is actually quite a common design, I guess, framework in old school Euros that I guess Vladimír Suchý kind of drew from a bit. Like, let's try and bring that into a more modern spin. But we don't see it so often in more modern games because most games that we play now are either like Architects, where you start the game and you go until the game ends, or they're like Paladins, where it's like, here's this round, here's what you have. When the round ends, we start a new round, and that's kind of how they function. So I like how it can, like Sam was saying, allows these moments, and exactly say it as well, where you kind of like, you spin your wheels for a bit and wait for this little thing, and then boom, and now spin them again, and then you're kind of waiting for those moments. And that feeling, especially after the second one, I think it's the second one, when you bring in all your resources from like 7 rounds worth of stuff, you're like, yeah, I've got like 15 credits and all this stuff to use. And how fast you burn through that in the next turn just disappears. But it's this nice moment of like, suddenly I'm rich, I can do stuff.
We like to talk a lot about tension in games, right? And we would say that just the more tension, the better in a sense. But I think what this does is quite interesting. You start the round with freedom and flexibility, and there's not that much tension at all because you've got all the time on your hands and you feel quite calm and chill. It's like, I can do whatever I want. I can just grab some of these resources over here. That spot's blocked. No worries. I'll grab it next round, and you're quite relaxed. And there's this ramp, this arc of tension as we get towards this income phase where for me as a player, I want to have spent everything, have nothing left on the table. Not that you need to do that, but I want to do that because everything you build in this game is going to generate you resources. Pretty much everything you build on your board, not all your cards, but everything that you build on your board is going to come back with resources in the income phase. So everything you can invest into your board before the income phase will come back the next turn. So I'm thinking I want to try and get rid of all this stuff right before the income phase. So it starts out chill and it builds to a kind of a crescendo, this big bit of tension, and you're really stressed about being blocked in that 3rd or that 4th round before the income. And then boom, we're back to nice chill. We've got all the resources in the world. I could spend my science first or I could spend my steel plus first. I don't mind which one I spend first. But then you guys both keep going to the upgraded building spot and you've still got more science to burn. And now I'm stressed when it gets to the 3rd round before income that I'm not going to spend my science and not going to upgrade my building. So I really love this ramp of tension where it's not a consistent line of tension, but it's like building and building and then it drops off, building and building and then it drops off.
And that happens in each round as well, right? Like it's kind of like if you know anything about like the writing theory, where it's like when you write a book, you have these kind of like mini climaxes, then the tension drops off, but you're always heading in an upwards direction, right? It's kind of like one of those graphs that's going up and then a little bit down and then keeps going up. And that is what the end of those rounds is like, because things get blocked, but you've still got lots of resources, but slowly your resources are diminishing, so the tension's going up. And so you have a little easing of tension as you go to the next round, and then it starts again, and it just gets worse and worse, and then you hit like the big climax of like the income, and then there's kind of a big drop, but you're still heading in that kind of upwards direction towards the climax of the game, where you're going to have those big turns and try and secure all your points. One thing I really wanted to talk about in this podcast is what you mentioned there, Sam, is like everything generates resources. And I think a huge amount of what makes this game fun is that everything generates resources. Like people love building stuff that generates stuff. I just think about like, why is Catan such a popular game? You build out your buildings, and the more buildings you get, the more chance you have to generate resources. But you know what was clever about this game? Even the roads generate resources. Even the tunnels between your cities generate resources. And like, that is like, it's just like, oh my goodness, I'm not just building some thing that I just have to build to connect stuff. I'm actually building something that's going to generate me resources. So actually, I might just build like 5 roads. Like, why not?
Dude, you're building toll roads all the time. I do not want to live in your city, taxing the crap out of these people as they use your roads, man. What is that about?
But yeah, it's great. And then you get to those income phases and you're just like, oh, I get a million things from here. I get a million things from here, and you just feel so rich. And then, as you said, then you spend all that in about 1 round afterwards, but it's fun.
So let's talk about the resources then, because I think they are a brilliant part of this game, where on paper, they've all got a similar value. We've got the kelp, we've got steel plast, we've got science and credits. And there's also a semi-wild one called biomatter, which could be kelp or steel plast. They, on paper, are similar value, but they all have their own identity. It's quite interesting. So kelp you need to have to build more farms. And also every round you need to pay 1 kelp to feed each of your cities. So there's kind of this idea that you kind of want to have 1 farm in each city, or have some cities that have multiple farms that are able to feed multiple cities. Steel plast is used to make laboratories. But interestingly, laboratories don't generate steel plast until they're upgraded. Laboratories generate science. So there's a little puzzle there, because all the other stuff usually just generates what it costs. Desalination plants, they cost credits and they generate you credits. And credits are going to be used to build not only desalination plants, but they're going to be used to build tunnels and cards. buying those S cards are really, really powerful. The other interesting thing about credits, it's like the main resource that you're not able to get from the worker placement spots. You can get all the other resources from the worker placement spots. The only way to get credits from worker placement is throwing away your action and taking the 2 coins in the middle, which I'm never going to do. So you need to be able to generate credits from your income and from your cards. Otherwise, you're not going to have credits from just placing workers out. And yeah, science. Science is used to upgrade your buildings, but it's generated from your laboratories. Shem, what did you think about kind of like the identities of the resources and kind of the asymmetry between them as well?
Yeah, it's a really interesting design decision in the game, I think, where they're not wildly different. That's the kind of the odd part about it. They're very close together, but they do have a very subtle personality to them. Even the tension between using your steel blast for the roads or the tunnels, because the tunnels require 1 credit and 1 steel, versus using them for those laboratories. So like the amount of times that I was just short 1 credit or 1 steel blast in the game, trying to do multiple things at the same time, and had to make the choice between which one to do. Whereas the kelp just felt like, oh, it's easy. You can always throw down those farms quite easily. They'll probably end up paying you back when you play them down. But there was also the easiest resource to get. So you often found like, oh, I got enough kelp. I'm not trying to find kelp. It was always just enough there. Whereas the steel blast and the science were like, how can I get 1 more? I need 1 more. And those credits after your income just start to disappear slowly because you're using them for these big actions. And of course, also the cities themselves will require a combination of these resources, usually quite a mix of what they are. And the symbiotic cities, I think, require the biomatter as well. I think it is. Could be wrong. But yeah, it's very interesting. I often forgot in our last plays that biomatter was essentially a wild resource. I kind of just didn't use it until I needed to use it. But I was also scoring from it, I think. So there's a lot of interesting ways that they push you in certain directions based on what resources you have and then what you can acquire. Even we're talking about the colored regions that you can place your action markers into. Just looking at them now, they're like the green. The only resource you can find in green is 1 kelp. There are a few little actions where you can get a credit by like moving up the eternal track or by getting, there's another action you can kind of just get 1 credit and some stuff. You can use your action cards obviously to get credits now and then. And then on the red, you've got 1 action spot that gives you 1 kelp and 2 steel blast, and then that's it. And then over in good old orange yellow land, there's like, oh, you can get some science here, and you can get 1 of each resource here, and that kind of stuff. So there's more bountiful stuff. But yeah, it's very, very interesting. And I mean, when you get the card that comes up that gives you the resource you need, you're like, I've got to play this down. I need to get that science without going to that science spot. Yeah, it creates a good kind of spread, or good, I guess, opens up the options of how you're going to go about finding this stuff.
Yeah.
Because if it was just like 2 or 3 resources, you'd always have, a bit of everything. But the fact that there is essentially, there's kind of 4 main ones, and then the biomatter. It's kind of these 4 resources that you will need. Like, you can't just ignore them. You could ignore them one more than the other, but you do actually need a bit of everything. Because if you go, oh, I'm not getting any kelp, then good luck feeding your cities. And then if you get no steel blast, then where are your tunnels going to come from? So you kind of have to dabble, which I like. And then the way that when you upgrade these buildings, they give more stuff and more things, especially if 2 in 1 city during income. So you're really trying to hit those points of like, oh, can I get a pair of 2 upgraded things of the same color or whatever it is? And you're trying to set yourself up so that when the income hits, you're maximizing what you spent to build these things to what you get back from them.
You said kelp is easy, but that last game, man, I just needed 1 more kelp.
Get good, Zach.
No, but I think it also depends what you're trying to score off, because that's the thing, is that last game I opted into scoring off fully upgraded farms and scoring off kelp left in my inventory. And so I always wanted more kelp to build more farms to be able to score more points, sort of thing. And it was kind of never enough because I just wanted to like double farm everywhere. What I love about the system, though, is that you don't need more of that resource to upgrade the building. You just need the resource to place the building. And then you need research to upgrade the building. And this is quite a nice feeling, because it's like, if you can get 1 of that resource, but you've got science to the side, that's going to be enough to eventually have the upgraded building, either by doing the action that lets you build an upgraded building straight away, or by building that building and later doing the upgrade building action. And I also wanted to talk about that upgrade building action, because I think it's really cool. There's this orange action, and it's like, take 2 resource tokens or upgrade up to 3 buildings. And it's this really min-maxy thing where you're always wanting to have 3 buildings to upgrade when you do that action. You're like, okay, I need to have 3 science and make sure I've got 3 buildings so that I can just maximize that action. But then as you're waiting to build your 3rd building, someone else is going to steal that action and you're like, mate. And if it's the last round before income, well, maybe you should have taken it earlier and just upgraded 2 buildings, because now you're going to miss out on all that income that you would have got. So I thought that was like quite a cool system, how upgrading wasn't using the same resources, it was using a different resource. And that kind of tension around wanting to min-max that upgrade action, but they're not always being the timing turning out how you wanted it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really cool system, the upgrade system. What I noticed, just leaning in more to the asymmetry amongst the resources, if all of us are leaning into laboratories, like we just somehow have a lot of steel plus and we're building lots of laboratories, then that orange action where we're going to upgrade our buildings is going to get super, super sweaty. And because it's pretty much the primary way to upgrade your resources, it's the main way to get rid of your science. It's quite hard to get rid of science fast other than that action. So that becomes a super, super contested action in a way that the other resource generating buildings and resources themselves don't do as much. I think there are lots of other ways to build tunnels, lots of other ways to build new cities that it doesn't get so blocked. But to upgrade, this is the spot. We've got a monopoly on the industry. You got to come via us. Let's go. There is one other action that we played with that lets you upgrade one building, but yeah, it's not the same. It's really not the same.
Yeah, and the upgrade system is also a very clever way, as far as like an interface goes with the game, where you've got this basically a 3x3 grid as your player board where you build out your cities, and you are limited physically in how big this game could get, right? Like, you don't want this massive table sprawling game. So they've essentially gone, let's not just go out, let's go up. So with this upgrade system, you can increase your income, increase your scoring by not taking up more table space. So from a design, I guess a graphic design or a tactile viewpoint, it's actually very clever and something I should try and be more aware of with games where it's maybe don't always have to, spread out. I mean, a game like Wayfarers where the cards just go flying left and right and takes up so much space. Well, you did tuck cards underneath, so there was like reusing that space a bit, but maybe there's ways in future games where rather than thinking like the only obvious way is to go out, can you go up? Can you use that as different space to achieve the same thing, I guess, as a question when it comes to the interface of the game. So I really like how they did that. It's very clever. And it's also cool to see like these taller buildings in front of you as well.
Third dimension. And then there's games like Zolkin, which use the 4th dimension of time.
Yeah.
And they make that like a resource as well, which is super cool too. So one other thing I really wanted to talk about in this game is the interaction. So the game really feels, and it kind of is just like a worker placement game in terms of the interaction, where there's the blocking of spots and stuff. But I think that this works super well. Like, it's not a vanilla worker placement game because you've got all the layers of your cards and your player board and all those sorts of things. But there's a reason that so many worker placement games are being made. It's just because that system is so, so good. Like, it's very clear what you're going to get out of your actions. It's not a massive rules overhead. And you do have those little kind of blocking moments where, you took my spot. And then sometimes people are paying attention to what others want to do and will get in the way, or will change their sequencing so that they are kind of being a little more annoying and grabbing the stuff that's more contested early. What do you guys think about the worker placement? I mean, we've talked about the card play and all that sort of stuff, but does this still work for you? Is it still a great mechanism for interaction?
I've always said that worker placement is kind of like the modern take on like a card game where you play a card, or a dice game where you roll dice on your turn. Like, we grew up playing games with very simple turn structures. Your turn is, it's my dice. Okay, I roll my dice and I move. Or if it's a card game, it's like, well, I guess I'll play this card and draw a card. Like, we're so used to those very simple mechanisms growing up. And worker placement, I think, does that for today's modern gamers, where it's my turn, I place a worker. Like, it's so simple. That's why it works so well. In this game, I do like the wrinkle of the colors. That's kind of what makes it work. If that wasn't there, if the puzzle wasn't there and it was just these 15 slots where you can place your worker and that's that, there's no other wrinkle to it, it'd probably be like, it's not that great. It's fine. It's been done before. But the fact that you are choosing to go to a place to then play a card, that adds this extra layer, which I've always loved. The first time I played this game, I thought that is brilliant. I remember saying, Sam, I think we first played it, like I used to play Asara years ago, and I still love Asara. I loved how they used the coloured cards in that game for worker placement, and I always thought I'd love to do something like that. And then when Underwater Cities came out, I was like, they did it. They did what I was hoping to do with Asara. So
They went to the future and they found a game designed by Shem Phillips from 2030.
Oh.
And then they stole it. And they came back in time and they designed it themselves, Underwater Cities.
No, not at all.
Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying Vladimír Suchý is a genius, and he deserves all the credit for this game, for sure.
We're not saying that. We don't want to get sued, man.
No, but I swear there's been some games where it's like, this is the game I've wanted to design. Was it me in the future or not? Like, I don't know.
Oh, for sure. This game falls in that category for me. Like games like Arnak and this and Great Western Trail, like I would have published this game in a heartbeat. It's my kind of game. I like it a lot. So, yeah.
And the other point of interaction I want to talk about is the turn order mechanic. So I think I have been outspoken about the fact that I detest when games just have a worker placement spot that say, hey, you get to be first player next round. And maybe sometimes they'll give you something else, like a few coins or whatever. That just doesn't do it for me at all. However, in this, there's like this little turn order track, which is going to reset each round. And every time you move up, apart from the first step, you get some resources. And this is enough for me to think, actually, this is okay in this game. We didn't play it at 4-player, so the variable turn order and not going round in a circle might have created more headaches if we were having to do some diagonal jumps around the table. But the things that I liked about this that is better than just taking a first player token was, one, that you get some resources, and the more you move up the track each round, the more resources you get out of it. And two, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to be first. Other players might be able to move up that track from cards or some other cheese and yoink it. And it was a good little bit of interaction. You're like, oh, why did you take first player from me? But I liked it in that way. I don't know. It felt like you could compete for it more, and it didn't feel like such a wasted action that no one would want to do. What do you guys think about that Federation track?
The first game, you had some like cheese and some cards. I think you had like a starting card that you basically get extra moves on it, and then you got like another card that synergized with that. So I think you were just like pretty much first player almost every round. So that was kind of like pointless. So I mean, that would be a slight criticism from me, is that I think we were playing with some slight expansion stuff, but it felt like it took away some of what was maybe the intended tension of that track. The second game, we didn't have that card in the game, and so there was more variability. There was us kind of competing for it. And I think it was good. I wouldn't say I love it. It wasn't bad. And what we were saying before about the research, I actually wanted to mention this, that because that research spot becomes so hotly contested, that actually adds to the tension of like wanting to move up this track, because you're like, oh man, there's only one more round before income. I really need to be first player so that I can lock in that research action, because I've got all these buildings to upgrade. And so that definitely added to the tension. I remember the very last round, I was further up the track, and then you managed to cheese me, like I think land on top of me to get first player, and then you got to do the research action, and it like screwed up what I wanted to do in the last round. It was like, oh man, like I needed just to move one more space on that track. So yeah, it definitely did add that kind of tension and player interaction. I still probably just would prefer, changing who's the first player each round, but that's just me.
Problem with that in a game like this is because you're not taking income every round. If you were playing like a 3-player game, the same player would be first in the last round before income every time.
Yeah.
I thought about it. It's like I normally like just passing it around, but because you're not taking income every round, I don't think it would work.
Yeah,
some people get really bad breaks about when they get to be first.
There's a reason for these things.
I think you do need that variable turn order for sure. I'm not in love with it, but I do think it's needed. What I do like about this track, though, is how there are some immediate effects as you move up. So there were moments where I did need 1 credit, and I thought, if I go to that green spot, I can move up twice and get a credit. So I did like that there was an extra little layer of decision there and things or motivations to use that track. Because I think in the first game, I didn't move up once. I was like, who cares? Like Sam's capping out every time. Zach's always ahead of me on it, and I'll do other stuff. Which is good. It's good that you don't have to do it and you can still get around. Like you can, maybe there is tension for a certain spot every time, and going first is great, but maybe you just don't worry about that. Do other stuff, right? It's the kind of game you can do other stuff, which is good. But yeah, no, it's fine. It's functional. And I think the fact that there is an extra layer going on makes it work better for me.
I think this opens up like a broader conversation though, because I think often people criticize games and say, oh, it's got this thing and I don't like that, without realizing that all the things they like about the game are made possible because there's this one thing that they don't like as much. And I think that sometimes this happens. It's kind of like those we've talked about before, like cursed problems or whatever. It's like you can't actually reach perfection in every game, and the fun has some drawbacks, has some things that make it fun, but also potentially not your favorite things.
People want the cheeseburger without the calories, mate. I don't know. They want the upside without the downside.
Yeah.
They don't understand.
So this is a strong example where it's like, I don't love the fact that we're not passing the turn order, but as you said, if we're passing the turn order, then the game would be completely broken probably, and it potentially just wouldn't work or wouldn't be as fun. Are there any other big examples of those, either in your own games or in other games you've played, that areas that gain like a lot of criticism but are actually essential, otherwise the game breaks down?
I mean, one example is just asymmetry in general, right? Like the upside of asymmetry is that you get to feel so different each time you play, and you get all these cool powers that make you feel special and all that sort of stuff. But asymmetry can lead to, one, imbalance, and two, like imbalanced synergies with either particular game setups, with the randomness of cards and things like that, or with scoring conditions. Like some asymmetries can work really well with particular scoring conditions. And the other thing that asymmetries do is they give direction maybe too much. Like sometimes it can take away from player agency. So there's always a tension around that.
We get it a lot. I've been, making games for a long time, and I think almost every single game, there's going to be a post on BGG saying, I played this once, and from now on, I'm going to be making this rule change when I play it with my friends. That comment comes up almost every single game. And you kind of just have to laugh and just brush it off, because you're like, okay, you can do that if you want. That's you can play the game how you want to play it. But in every case, they've missed something. They've missed why there is that restriction or why there is that rule. So it happens a lot. We talked about it briefly in the last episode with Bobby as well, how people asking like, oh, I like the anarchy, but why is there not more interaction? Well, you don't want interaction. Trust me. Like, it's going to be a long game.
Yeah.
We talked about that last time. So, and you get the same comments for Scar Bray or Ship Price Redux and that kind of thing. So a lot of people go into games, I think, with preconceived ideas about how a game should be, like any game should be, and how it should please their tastes. And if you go in with that kind of mindset, I think you're going to be disappointed with most games. And really, like, you should just accept the game for what it is. And if there's flaws, then find a better game, rather than trying to think, oh, they should change this. And then without actually thinking, like, actually, what would it actually do to the game? Oh, no, that would make it worse. Okay, cool. Now I know. Like, it happens a lot. So it's just part of, I think, as game designers, being willing to accept that not everyone's going to understand the intention of things that you put into a game. But from experience and from playtesting that it's needed. And yes, it might feel evil. It might feel like a bad mechanism or too many rules, but without it, the game's broken. And I'd rather have a game that is not broken than a game that like doesn't ruffle any feathers, I guess, for people who want a game to be a certain thing.
Totally. Yeah, one other example is like an answer to this question is that I'm sort of a bit outspoken about not liking too much direction in a game, where I think that direction and kind of sandboxiness and agency are constantly at war with one another. And so the reason direction is good is that players find it much easier to make decisions and they can just kind of get going. There's less AP and that sort of thing. And some people like to have tasks and goals to fulfill and they feel good about it. But then sandboxiness is really cool as a way to express yourself as a player, as a way to have agency, as a way to explore different things each time you play. And so those things can be in contrast, especially when there's direction which says, you do this thing, you get X amount of points when you do this thing. I really don't like those in games. And I think this game, Underwater Cities, does a really, really good job of giving players direction. There is a little bit of strategic direction with your Metropolis at the start of the game. It's a way that you can get, 8 to 12 victory points at the end of the game for particular conditions. That's a little bit of kind of strategic general direction, but it does a really good job of subtly giving players directions turn by turn without you feeling like you're being railroaded by the game that you must do a certain thing. And what I mean by that is the cards in your hand are going to dictate kind of where you want to go and synergies amongst them. Also, the resources that you have left. Like if I've got 3 science left and I've only got 1 steel plast, I'm probably not going to go and take the action where I build 2 laboratories. I probably am going to go to the action spot that's going to let me upgrade 3 buildings. So those little bits of direction that kind of happen organically from the game is very subtle and the player isn't super aware of it, but it means that it brings the downtime and the AP down in the game, but you still feel like you're in control of the ship. So for you guys, I'm really interested in what is driving replayability or replay value for you with Underwater Cities.
I think it really comes down to just how wide the game is in terms of things you could do. It's the variability of the cards, I suppose, that really brings that in. So like a lot of these heavy card-driven games, I mentioned some earlier. City was one we covered recently as well, which is the same kind of game, same kind of space where you could play the game 5 times and on the 6th time you go, oh, I've never seen this card before.
Yeah.
How would this change my strategy? So there's a lot of room for that in this game. And there is a level of mastery, I think, in the game like this as well, where you do think, surely I can beat my last score. Because while there is interaction, kind of beating your own scores feels like a fun part of the game as well. And I've played this game, Underwater Cities, a few times solo in the past as well. And trying to beat that high score is like pretty hard. And it feels good when you eke out a higher score than previously. So I think those are the 2 things really, is like trying to improve, trying to get better, and just exploring things that you maybe overlooked in previous plays.
Yeah, I think the puzzle is definitely a part of that because it is very enjoyable, just the whole worker placement card puzzle and trying to be more efficient, like you said, Sam. Yeah, there were times when I took actions and didn't play the card, and as Sam said, that gave him shivers. It was like when you draw your fingernails down the blackboard, but that's because I wasn't the most efficient player and I tried to be more efficient the next time I played the game. But that's like a thing that you want to improve at. You want to improve at managing to always be able to play a card, because you kind of have to also draw cards at the right time to set up your hand to be able to keep doing that. Like it's not all just about drawing one card every round. Like sometimes you're going to need to play cards or take actions to draw extra cards to set your hand of 3 cards up to be able to keep playing a card each action. If you've got 3 red cards in your hand, you might be in the point where you're like, I can't take 3 red actions this round, so I need to get around that. And so that's something that I was enjoying trying to get better at. And I think the replayability comes from the fact that it's fun. Like it's a fun game, and this fact that everything gives you resources, the puzzle together with that kind of income system, I think just makes it so much fun and makes me enjoy the time playing it, which makes me want to play it again.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with what you guys have said. The core puzzle is very Moorish. The interaction means that you can't always do what you want to do, which leads to some unpredictability and replay value in that sense. And there is also a degree of mastery, which I enjoy, around learning how to manage the puzzle and that sort of thing. I will say I prefer the growth as a player in sequencing and efficiency rather than just getting a higher score. I've played the game 15 times now, and my one sort of strike against it in terms of pursuing mastery is that the S cards that cost 3 credits are just kind of essential. They're kind of necessary to win the game. I don't think I've seen someone win the game without having them ever. And I know that that is potentially a design decision that is intentional. That's totally fine. That's allowed to be an intentional design decision. But for me, I like it when more kind of out of the box things are possible to win the game. I just don't think there are enough ways to spend your credits and turn them into points without the S cards. That is the way to turn your credits into points. And players will have lots of credits because you're forced to build tunnels to connect all your cities in. So that's kind of my one strike against it, is I would like another way that you could use your credits and not feel like you have to chase 2 or 3 S cards to try and win the game. Now, if it's really competitive, everyone will have 2 S cards and then whoever sequence best will win. But often one player kind of gets 3 of those cards or whatever. They're onto it a little bit faster than others and they could typically win the game. So that's my little knock against it from having played lots of times. But I love the core puzzle and I always want to come back for more just for that.
I think you had a second small gripe though, Sam, against the cards that break the puzzle. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I never play with those cards. I don't really like cards and abilities in games that basically say, hey, you get to ignore the core hook of the game. So when designing Circadian's First Light and trying to think of more and more characters, I kept wondering about characters that basically meant they didn't have to do the planning phase and they could just use dice as anything. And then I kept thinking, no, that's just kind of undermining what I want the game to be. And so that's totally viable. It could have been a balanced power. It could have worked for sure. And some people might have liked it. But for me, I just wouldn't have, I don't know. I don't like just kind of undermining the game systems itself. But hey, some people probably build those cards. They're probably good. I'm just never going to play them myself. And that's probably just a personal player preference thing. But I kind of want to be constrained by the core puzzle. I kind of want to be playing in that playground rather than just looking outside and just allowing myself to do anything.
We hope you've enjoyed our discussion about underwater cities, but we'd love to hear from you. Jump on the Garphill Games Discord and let us know on the podcast channel if you've played Underwater Cities. What are your thoughts on the core worker placement and coloured card puzzle? Are there any games that come to your mind that you like overall but have something you don't enjoy, that if taken out or changed would ruin the game?
All right, welcome back to the third week of drafting a game from each 10 of the top 200. And this week we are up to games 21 to 30. So as I mentioned last week, we have taken screenshots of all these groups of 10 as of when we started doing this draft, just so that we're not going to have games moving across categories between podcasts. And so if some of these games are no longer in the top 21 to 30 when you're listening to this podcast, we're sorry. But at the time, this is what there was. So I'm going to read them out quickly, and then we'll get into drafting. So number 21 onwards, Seven Wonders Duel, Frosthaven, Nemesis, Clank Legacy Acquisitions Incorporated, A Feast for Odin, Concordia, Great Western Trail 2nd Edition, Lost Ruins of Arnak, Arkham Horror, the card game, and then Root. So I think this week Shem has the ban and the last pick, and Sam is first picking, and I'll be second pick.
So in the last episode, I drafted Great Western Trail, and because I don't like seeing so many second editions in the top 100, and because no one else can have this game because it's mine, I'm going to ban second edition of Great Western Trail.
Very good. That's a good ban. I might well have picked that if you hadn't banned it. And now I am first pick, and I actually would have been really happy with second pick because there are two options for me. And those two options are A Feast for Odin and Lost Ruins of Arnak. Now, the mean Sam wants to take Lost Ruins of Arnak just because I think it's higher in the other two people's estimations. But for me, both of these games are probably in my top 10. And I think I'm actually going to go A Feast for Odin. It's a game that I have played so many times with my friend Luke, 2-player, and I love the fact that our scores keep going up and up and up and up. There's so much that you can improve at and gain mastery on, but Luke always beats me, and I love that because eventually I want to beat him. It's like beating my dad at chess when I was a kid. Eventually I want to beat Luke at A Feast for Odin. He's such a strong gamer, and it's a really fun sandbox game. And for some reason, I don't normally like polyomino puzzles, but for some reason, I love just getting a big sword and trying to find out where I can fit this big sword amongst my like mead horns and all that sort of stuff. So it's just a really, really cool game. I'm hoping to show Zach sometime soon. Have you played it, Shem? Did you like it?
I played it like once, I think, with you, and we were clueless. You've since played it a lot more times and you've figured it out, but I think I was kind of overwhelmed the first time we played it.
I could understand that. It is quite overwhelming, but yeah, it's a game that makes me want to keep coming back for more. So I'm going to pick that and leave one of you with Lost Ruins of Arnak.
Zach doesn't want Lost Ruins of Arnak. He's from my Jedi mind tricks right now.
This is the consequence of being a Great Western Trail.
I know.
Look, if we hadn't done Lost Ruins of Arnak for the podcast, I wouldn't have picked it. But you know what the problem is that we did it for the podcast, so we played it a bunch of times. I had played it once before on BJ, like when it came out. And the problem with playing games on BJ first time is that you can miss a lot of like what makes the game fun. Playing it in person, I had a great time. And since then, I've also played a bunch of async games on BGA and had a great time. And so it's also a set of 10 where there's not very much else that I would consider picking. And so I will be picking Lost Ruins of Arnak. It is a really fantastic game. Unfortunately for Shem, I think this is a number one, I think, or close to the top of his
number one
games of all time. But it's a draft. I really like it. It's I'd say it's in my top 10. I haven't done a top 10 in a long time, but it would probably be up there. And so Lost Ruins of Arnak is my pick. I'm sorry.
And you can check out the Lens and Veil podcast of Lost Ruins of Arnak on Spotify or all places you listen to your podcast.
Thank you, voiceover man. So that played out exactly as I thought it would. All right, so I'm now like, my 2 10s are gone, one by my own hand. I have no 9s, but I do have 2 8s in this top 10 that have not been mentioned or taken. And they are Seven Wonders Duel and Nemesis. And I would think I would probably go for Duel, but I doubt in this next, top 200 we're doing, I doubt I'll take another game like Nemesis. I'm unlikely to take a game that's that big and involved and social. So I'm going to pick Nemesis purely because if we're doing a draft, I want some variety. And there's probably other games that will come up that are similar to Seven Wonders Duel. Maybe not 2-player games, but, card heavy, resourcey kind of engine games. So I'm going with Nemesis. I've played this game, I think, 4 times. I do own the lockdown version of it, the newer version. I played that once solo. I had one game of Nemesis where it was just, we got completely ruined by someone who just was not playing well. It's like, thank you for burning us all to the ground. And then the next game, we played it with the same group straight away again, and so much fun. Like, just that we've talked about it, I think, on the last episode, about the fear and anxiety you get as you're running through the spaceship trying to make things better. And, it plays on that co-op thing that I like co-op. See, I played plenty of games in this kind of space over the years. And for me, Nemesis, I think, takes it for like this kind of social heavy, fear-driven kind of game where there could be a traitor, there could be, a hidden alien amongst your ship who's been infected, whatever it might be. And you're fighting off big-ass beasties trying to get away from the monsters, the aliens. And, I also quite enjoy the Alien franchise and Predator and stuff. So this has that evocative feeling of those movies, which I like, the darkness and the spookiness of them. So, yeah, this is going to be my 3rd pick of our draft. I would not have picked it from the start, thinking I'd take Nemesis, but I'm taking Nemesis.
It's a good shout, though, like not just picking for what you like in isolation from this top 10, but actually thinking about what your collection is going to be from these series of top 10s, right? And that's bringing a bit of balance to your collection. I think I'm just Euros at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Zach took Spirit Island away from me.
Bring some balance to the beige.
I need a co-op somewhere. I'm interested in what you think of Concordia, Shem.
I used to really like it. And then I played it a few times years ago and really enjoyed it. And I was waiting for it to come to New Zealand for ages, the reprint, and it just could not find it. I finally found it. And I went all in and bought like the Salsa expansion, I think it is, and there's another expansion as well. Played it, was like, is that it? Like, is that what I remember? I don't remember. And I was like, that's not as good as I remember it being. So maybe it was more about when I first played it, was the friends I was playing it with, was a good time. Like, it's a good game. I'm not saying it's a bad game. It's a 7 out of 10 for me. I would happily play it again, but I think the last few times I played it, I was kind of like, it's not as cool as I remember. So, but it is very clever. I think that there's maybe been better games come out since that are similar, or better games that have built upon what Concordia did, maybe.
Yeah. It's kind of like the darling of Euro game design, I swear. Like, it seems kind of untouchable in terms of like critique or whatever. I think just because it's so smooth and it flows well, and it kind of, I don't know if it invented that whole hand management mechanic, but it might well have. The one where you just kind of keep adding cards to your hand, you play them down, eventually take an action to pull them back up. Like, that was so innovative from what I can tell. And it is very smooth and with great interaction. But yeah, I've played it since, and I was impressed when I played it the first time, and each time I play it, it's not been as fun or exciting or as amazing each time. So I don't know. I'm kind of in the same camp as you. But this isn't the Flaming Concordia podcast. Yeah. It's a great game. Try it out. That's just the reason why we haven't picked it.
Thanks for listening to the Lens and Veil podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Garphill Games. You can follow Garphill Games on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, X, and YouTube by subscribing to our newsletter at garphill.com or by joining the Garphill Discord server.
Every week we'll also burn one game from the top 10 that we're doing.
Well, that wouldn't be my pick from this
no,
list,
it'd be something that has 4 letters from my list. But anyway.
Burn down the forest.
Brutal.
Down to the roots.